Well, welcome back, everyone, to the latest installment in the St. John's ongoing video series. We've got a little something different for you today. The past few months, you've had to endure just me solo. Admittedly, there was a guest appearance by Spider-Man at one point, but predominantly I was the only one there, and certainly I was the only one speaking. This month, we've got a guest. We've got Harriet Peterson, who is a parishioner and also a staff member, so I'm very privileged to be able to work with her on a daily basis. And it's not just to give you a break, although that's an added benefit. It's also because the first week of November in the church, we celebrate a Vocation Awareness Week as we invite people to ponder how God might be calling them to live out their baptismal call, which we all have, but in the particular circumstances of their lives. And Harriet's got a very intriguing story of how she's responded to that call. So it's very fitting in that we have her sharing a bit of her tale with us. So Harriet, thanks for your presence. Thanks for being willing to share with the good people who are joining us via video today. To start with, maybe you could just give like a 1-minute resume of your life up to about your college years, just to give us a little bit of background.
Sure. Well, to start at the beginning, I was born here in Minnesota. So I'm like a native.
Fine place for people to be born in.
Yeah, exactly. And, but I did all of my growing up in northern New York, in the Adirondacks, about, like the next town over from Lake Placid, where the Olympics were. The Winter Olympics. And I've got 2 younger brothers, and we spent our winters doing cross-country skiing and sledding, and our summers hiking and camping. And I had just kind of the most picturesque sort of growing up there in New York, as you can imagine. And my family was Protestant, and so we had a lovely church community, and we spent a lot of time at church growing up. I loved the hymns. I loved the Bible. Everything was great. And I don't know, outdoors, church, school, everything just kind of plugged along.
Together. Lovely.
Yeah, tiny town, outdoors. That was mostly about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, when you went off to college, that was sort of a watershed experience for you, as it is, I think, for many of us for various reasons, but including for your faith journey.
Yeah.
Say a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to St. Olaf College here in Minnesota, and
that was a very good Minnesota, by the way.
Minnesota, yeah. I feel like because I was born here, I just
you still got it, yeah.
Imbibed the Minnesota.
Oh.
So I went off to college, and it sort of started a lot of things for me, and a lot of them faith related. I went to school, like my majors were physics and math, so not faith related, but
at least not evidently. But anyway,
exactly.
Very quantitative.
Yes, but I stayed kind of connected with kind of intellectual humanities concerns. I did like a great books program that St. Olaf has, where we started with Epic of Gilgamesh.
Oh, yeah.
And over the course of 5 classes, we ended with The Hobbit.
Okay.
Reading kind of everything in between. Not everything, obviously.
Right.
Much as we could. And in one of the earlier classes, we read The Rule of St. Benedict, which was he was an early Christian author who kind of set up one of the early monastic communities. So he laid out some structure for his monks. And I had never encountered him before. And being Protestant, or, maybe most people haven't encountered him before.
Yeah, regardless, I think a lot of our Catholic brothers and sisters might not really know him either.
Yeah, and so it's just this tiny little booklet, really. It's not very heavy. And because I loved the Bible at that point, he goes in many of his tiny little chapters, lay out which psalms to pray over the course of the day. So he's one of the earliest authors to kind of set out the liturgy of the hours as it has developed through the ages. And so I kind of got it right from the source, the liturgy of the hours. But I didn't know what it had developed into, and so I just kind of cold saw this this idea of praying the Psalms throughout the day, and it struck something really deep in me. Like, I loved the Bible, I loved praying, although at that point my faith was really sort of from my family, you know, because I was new in college, you know, I had just left kind of my community church, right? And so, but somehow this idea of praying the Psalms, like, resonated with me. And so over the course of the next year or so, just that little spark struck and deepened, like, into kind of a bigger faith, like a relationship with Jesus, because I had, from praying the Psalms and like building kind of a prayer life off of that, I got to know Jesus better, and with the help of some of my Catholic friends, we'll say.
Lots of them at St. Olaf.
Exactly. Well, you would be surprised. It's a Lutheran school, but they're there. So I hadn't realized that at first that praying the Psalms throughout the day had been kept up through the years,
and even more formalized now.
Exactly. And so I was trying to find ways to do it. And so one of my Catholic friends helped me out. She gave me the breviary, our Catholic breviary. And at first I was hesitant, right? Because I wasn't Catholic at that time. And I was like,
is this allowed? Will God smite me if I do this?
Right, I don't know about this. Like, I love the way that the prayers are set out. It feels substantial, like I could use this for my life. There's like enough here, but are they sneaking stuff in? Like,
Catholic subterfuge.
Right, exactly. Like,
you will become one of us.
Right,
which is kind of what happened.
You're right, but I wanted to know. You know, I wanted to know kind of what was in there, and so my dear Catholic friends again, they helped me out, and so I got a copy of the Catechism, just so I would kind of like know what was
everyone's favorite piece of leisure reading
with Catholicism, basically, so I would know if I was okay praying the breviary. And so I read the Catechism, and it's actually, I mean, this is kind of a silly plug, but it is beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, it's a lovely
text. But
honestly.
like, they did such a good job writing it. And so I read the Catechism, and another amazing moment for me in college was reading the chapter on the Eucharist, because at that point I was still going to my Presbyterian church, and because my faith had been deepening, we had kind of our version of the Lord's Supper, of the Eucharist, once a month. And so those Sundays have been kind of deepening in importance for me, even without knowing anything about the Eucharist. And so they're kind of like a shadow, you know, they're the Protestant version of the do this in remembrance of me. You know, everyone tries to do something in remembrance of me. And so I was experiencing grace through those Sundays, and I knew it. I was looking forward to them. I could experience it afterwards. And so when I read the chapter on the Eucharist in the Catechism, I could just like feel the truth of it, like settle into my bones. Like, oh, this is true. I know this. And so once I read that, it was no longer just about the breviary. It was about like Catholicism,
the whole picture.
Like everything. And so then kind of everything shifted, and I realized like, well, gosh, I want the Eucharist. And so that was just this huge turning point, and and then I looked into RCIA and began going through the program there at my college parish, and I joined the church. So we just kind of rolled
The
right on.
snowball began,
Yeah, exactly.
and it rolled on and on. Yeah.
Yep, and it was really wonderful. So I joined the church that Easter during the Easter Vigil.
Sure, yeah.
And it was really wonderful. So, I kept praying the breviary, but kind of the main focus had turned into just the bigger picture of the Eucharist and the faith and Jesus and what he gives us.
Right, and how all of it is about our relationship with Jesus, right?
Yes.
So the breviary, the Eucharist, all of it ultimately contributes to coming to know him and his love more deeply.
Yeah.
Now, at some point, you started to be attracted to what we call religious life, a life in community.
Mm-hmm.
How did that unfold?
Yeah, so that actually was kind of circumstantial because I loved praying the Liturgy of the Hours, right? So that was kind of an initial draw through praying the Psalms and continued with the breviary. And because I loved the Rule of St. Benedict, which is kind of the foundation for Benedictine life, which is a big, huge monastic tradition in the church. There's a whole bunch of communities that follow the Rule of St. Benedict.
Right, trace their origin, yeah.
And I wasn't specifically looking for a community. It was just more
okay.
like this kind of sort of life plan. Like the Rule of St. Benedict is very, very about balance. Like this balance of like work, reading, which in the Rule of St. Benedict is kind of biblical prayer.
Sure.
Reading the Bible, and prayer, which is praying the Psalms and private prayer. And so this balance was really attractive to me, but I wasn't specifically looking to live it out in a religious community.
Okay.
I just was planning on living it.
Yeah, sure.
But I really wanted to go on retreat somewhere where I could pray the Liturgy of the Hours in community on my retreat.
Yeah.
And so this was my maybe junior year of college.
Okay.
I found Our Lady of the Mississippi Abbey in Iowa, because I was here in college at St. Olaf in Minnesota, and the Trappistine Abbey in Iowa was the closest place that prayed kind of all of St. Benedict's hours
Okay, sure.
of that he has in his rule, where I could go on retreat, just the closest place. So I headed there on retreat, and it was like coming home. So it was kind of the same sort of feeling that I had finding the Psalms, probably to a lesser extent than finding the Eucharist, but just this like, oh,
This fits.
I didn't know I was looking for this,
right,
but
right.
I found
Yeah.
it. And so the people, the balance, everything just kind of was at
Clicked.
home. Yeah, exactly. And so I just kept coming back. Kind of all my breaks from college, I just kept going back for visits, and eventually I entered.
Yes.
So it wasn't a sort of discernment of, is religious life for me? It was more of, oh, this fits kind of what I've already realized my life with Jesus is going to look like.
Sure, yeah.
And he's here with me.
No, it reminds me of a lovely line from a German poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, where he talks about living the questions and then you live into the answers. So you kind of just discover in the process where you're supposed to be, as opposed to the sort of active, what am I supposed to do? You just kind of live your life with it in the back of your head, and then you discover, oh no, this is where I'm supposed to be for how long then? You entered and you stayed there for?
Yeah, I was there for 8 years. Yep, so it was all formation.
Yeah.
So I was there for, well, I visited for a long time, so I didn't enter immediately after college. I visited for maybe 2 years after college, and then we have a 6-month postulancy and 2 years of novitiate, and then I was a junior, which is kind of 1 year renewable vows.
Okay.
And actually, I'm currently still in my last year of renewing vows.
Ah,
they
okay.
expire in February.
Okay.
So I'm still in
So
vows.
you're still living vows, yeah.
Yep. And so that's kind of a whole 8+ years
Okay.
of formation. So we took lots of classes, lots of formation every year. As a junior, all the Trappist juniors would get together for a junior seminar. So lots of community, lots of formation, and yeah, it was really good. I really am appreciative for the whole formation experience.
Lovely.
It's a really
But you're clearly not there now.
yeah, exactly. So good noticing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I pride myself on being very observant.
Yes.
So what led you then to step out or step into a new
Right.
chapter
Yeah,
of your journey?
That is also a good story. So about a week after I was accepted to enter, I had my first big seizure. So I have epilepsy.
Okay.
And so this whole time of formation, I've kind of had this sort of sword of epilepsy hanging over my head. And the community was so understanding and just beautiful with being open to what God was doing
Sure.
through it. And we were both me and the community were just open to see what God was going to do.
Collaborating and yeah.
Exactly. And so for a long time, the medicines were doing great, and we were kind of on track to move forward. I've tried lots of medicines, and it's just this kind of ongoing, see what will do best and everything. And kind of the final, over the years though, it began impacting more and more of my kind of functioning in community life.
Yeah, setting.
There became more and more things that I couldn't do with everyone, and my need for more sleep, especially more sleep, kind of rose, which was really difficult for living the balance that St. Benedict kind of lays out, that the Trappist life, kind of holds. And so everyone was so flexible, and we figured out a way for me to hold my health needs.
Yeah.
But things had to give, so the balance wasn't there.
Sure.
So I was able to stay healthy, but I wasn't balanced. And so over time, we were just having to constantly try to discern, where do we go from here?
And how, back to, the overarching question, right? How do you allow your relationship with Jesus to flourish?
Exactly.
Sometimes what we do is we can hold aloft these noble ideals, but they actually get in the way of the noblest of ideals.
Yep. And so this past year, I've been up here at Mayo for some kind of more intense treatments and surgeries that would kind of sort of determine the question. Either they would sort of cure things, the surgeries would, or they would kind of provide a long-term, less curative move forward. And that was when we were really able to kind of make a clear discernment on kind of God's here is your path forward.
Yes.
And so it really has been kind of a long, difficult journey.
Sure.
But at the same time, there's been a lot of peace through it because it feels like it's been very collaborative. My community, me, and just kind of God working through the circumstances.
Sure.
So it's really been beautiful how it's worked out. And because the whole time I've been striving to live with Jesus through all these things, it's not like I'm no longer living with him.
Right, exactly.
Since I'm not at the Abbey, it's just in a different form. Like here, I can smile at the parishioners every day.
That's right.
And that's just as lovely a thing to do as waking up early in the morning and praying for them from Iowa.
Right.
So it's just different. And so it's been good, I think.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So.
Well, I'm thrilled that the journey has brought you here to St. John's, and that we get to work together, and that you get to be a parishioner. Harriet is actually technically newer than I am to the staff.
Oh, yeah. I'm
so
the baby
I got to
here.
welcome her, and that was a great joy and a delight. And thanks so much for sharing your story. Thanks so much
thanks for
helping
listening.
to open our eyes to the different ways that Jesus does indeed call. And my encouragement, certainly to all of our viewers, is to ask that fundamental question: where is Jesus calling? You heard Harriet's story. You heard a little bit of my story a couple of months back. And if you didn't see that video, you can certainly go back to it. And that's the decisive piece. Where is the Lord calling? How is he calling us to open ourselves up ever more to his love? And that can happen in so many ways. So trust that he is indeed calling you to something. He has something for each and every one of us. Trust that he's calling you. Ask the question, let him lead you, and let him love you into that journey, so that your own lives can be enriched, and you can then be a source of enrichment to those you meet.